But, these moments of a fighter, George Foreman loses, steps away for 3 years, comes back stronger. Michael Jordan takes a hit, comes back. Billy Graham had to step away. Breaking point, comes back. Baptizes 210 million people. Then he's on Johnny Carson, baptizing other people. Woody Allen, all these other things that's happening. What were some of those moments for you, for someone that's putting thousands of hours of studying this topic?
Yeah. I think that's a good way of putting it. I mean, so when I was young, just before my 11th birthday, I was diagnosed with or my 12th birthday. I was 11, just before my 12th birthday. I was diagnosed with a rare neurological condition that left me paralyzed from the waist down. So it was, it's called acute transverse myelitis. And what basically happened was that I had the flu, and my body's immune system, instead of attacking the flu, attacked the nerve endings at the base of my spinal cord, the myelin sheath, causing inflammation and cutting off the communication between my brain and my legs. And so that was a condition which the prognosis was that I was almost certainly, most likely going to be paralyzed for the rest of my life. And I experienced what I believe is a supernatural healing, in that 1 month from the day, January 8th, when I woke up and I couldn't feel my legs. I woke up on February 8th, woke up, got out of bed, walked over to my wheelchair and sat down. And that it was the doctors who first used the word miracle, because they couldn't explain ultimately the factors that were going on in terms of there being no evidence of the swelling on the base of my spinal cord, and also the fact that there was just no muscle atrophy in those 90 days. And so that marked a powerful supernatural experience in my life, in that something happened that was unexplainable from a natural, materialistic sense of kind of looking at the world. And so although that marked that powerful supernatural experience, later in my teen years, I still really, and maybe this is what you're referring to in terms of hitting a wall, is I was really wrestling with other questions, in that, okay, something happened when I was a kid. I'm not sure really how to get around that, but I have these intellectual questions about whether what I believe or what I've been taught to believe is actually true. And so that started a period of time.
And that's exactly where I'm going. This is great.
Yeah. Where I investigated. And, I lived in a home where we had the Quran on the shelf. And so I pulled it off and I read it at that point in time. Now, I've read it multiple times since then. But the first time reading it through and thinking, okay, could this actually answer the ultimate questions?
How old were you the first time you read it?
I was 16.
And at that time, how many times had you read the Bible?
Oh, at that point, I probably read the Bible about 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
So I read the Quran cover to cover. I've read it multiple times since, but I also read the Bhagavad Gita. I think it was at the time it was a shorter version. It wasn't the entire Bhagavad Gita. And I read the Book of Mormon, and digging into some of these pieces of worldview literature to try to figure out, okay, I know what my parents raised me to believe, but is believing it because they raised me to it the best reason to believe it? It's not a bad reason. I don't think it is. But is it the best reason? And so exploring some of these questions as much as I could at that age, in looking at these sources, going online, trying to interact with people who held these worldview perspectives. And that was really the process that I think God used that set the foundation for what I do now in terms of actually wrestling with, because I think there are good objections to the Christian worldview. I don't think they're true, but that doesn't mean that there aren't good ones. And so I think we have a duty, if we are pursuing the truth, and ultimately I think that Jesus is the truth with a capital T, that we have a duty to pursue what is true, even above, say, an allegiance to Jesus. Now, I don't think that that is in competition to each other, because I think that Jesus is the truth, but we should ultimately be asking the question, what if this could be false? And looking at the objections from the other side and saying, well, are there any actual reasonable objections that invalidate what I believe to the point that I need to rethink this?
When this happened at 11 years old to 12 years old, January 8 to February 8, when you got up and walked up to your wheelchair, were you still an old soul prior to that? Were you always a pretty old soul? Like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old walking around like you're 25, 30 years old? Were you that person?
Oh, I don't think so. I was a bit of a slacker.
Okay, so you were a bit of a slacker. So, but But were you still interested? Were you personally reading? Were you personally curious in the Bible? And were your parents like, you got to read every morning, you got to wake up reading the Bible, we got to start off with prayer, and the days with prayer every day, read this book? Was it something in the family tradition that you're reading no matter what every day?
No, not necessarily. Not regimental like that. Like it wasn't.
Meaning at 12 years old, had you already finished the Bible once?
I think. Yeah, most likely.
Most
I
people
probably
have
had.
not finished it first,
Yeah, I mean, we would read every evening. We would read the Bible together as a family. We would pray for the people in our church. So there were kind of those disciplines that were put in place, but I don't think that they were like militaristic in the sense that I had to read my devotions. My parents were checking up on me on how much I was actually getting through or anything like that. I think that it was much more of an organic kind of just attitude.
There's 3 siblings of yours. Have they all read the Bible pre-12 years old?
I don't know.
Was it something where you guys collectively would sit down? Was it a family tradition Bible? So that was a...
Yeah. We would do evening devotions kind of thing.
So after 12, after that event that happened to you, were you a different person afterwards and people could tell? Was there a certain level of urgency where you felt like you owe it to God, that I'm going to commit my life to you? Was there that kind of a moment for you?
In some ways, but maybe not in... overt ways in other areas. I was very invested in athletics as a kid because of that, because I felt like I had experienced something where God had given me this exposure to understanding what it was like to take advantage of walking in and out of a room.
What do you have something in your Twitter profile that says something athlete, right?
Athlete wannabe?
Athlete wannabe. Yeah, that's what you got. Yeah.
So I was really involved in track and field as a kid. And then I ended up competing all throughout high school and went to university and competed varsity track and field. And I felt very passionately that was, and probably to what you're saying, there being a conviction, like this is something that I need to take seriously because it gives me a structure for my life, but also I needed to constantly be reminded that I had been in a situation where this was just a complete impossibility.
Nowadays, more than ever, the brand you wear reflects and represents who you are. So for us, if you wear a Future Looks Bright hat or a Valuetainment gear, you're telling the world, I'm optimistic, I'm excited about what's going to be happening, but you're a free thinker, you question things, you like debate. And by the way, last year, 120,000 people got a piece of Future Looks Bright gear with Valuetainment. We have so many new things. The cufflinks are here. New Future Looks Bright. This is my favorite, the green one. Just yesterday, somebody placed an order for 100 of these. If you watch the PBD podcast, you got a bunch to choose from. White ones, black ones. If you smoke cigars and you come to our cigar lounge, we have this high quality lighter cutter and a holder for the cigars. We got sweaters with the Valuetainment logo on it. We got mugs. We got a bunch of different things. But if you believe the future looks bright, if you follow our content and what we represent with Valuetainment, with PBD Podcast, go to vtmerch.com. And by the way, if you order right now, there's going to be a special VT gift inside just for you. So again, go to vtmerch.com, place your order, tell the world that you believe the future looks bright. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.